Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Super Tease video. And with this one, I'm bringing you my Devastation Evoker PvP guide. This specialization was so much fun. I wanted to give some of my tips and tricks to how I was able to climb to 2400 rating so quickly in and around 100 rounds of solo shuffle from zero experience. So let's get going here. Right off the bat with your Devastation Evoker, you're going to want to make sure that you're playing Shroud. You're going to want to get this up before the fight begins, but generally you want to wait to see if the enemies are running at you because sometimes they'll wait. I love starting the fight with Shattering Star and Double Disintegrate. This is just a good opener whenever you've got Shattering Star. It's going to force a lot of defensives without committing a lot. I've already got Divine Protection and Shield of Vengeance from the Ret Paladin, and I'm still holding on to powerful cooldowns like Deep Breath and Dragon Rage and Tip the Scales. We then lead into Eternity Surge, trying to proc and get more Essence breaks so that we can keep spamming Disintegrates, and it's really just all about spamming Disintegrates with this build that I'm playing. I hover and stay a safe distance away while always casting. Enemies are stacked up. We're going to go for a double Deep Breath. We interrupt the Fists of Fury with the Stun Lock as well, where they're going to turn our camera around really quickly. Dragon Rage, Tip the Scales, and go for a Fire Breath. Now, I should have Shattering started before this, but regardless, it has forced every defensive cooldown. Karma, Iron Bark from the Ret Pally. So we're just pulling away, we're kiting, and we're avoiding damage using our hover charge. We got Time Spiral. We can reset a hover. We also have our landslide route, so we're going to root the monk behind the pillar, out of line of sight of the Ret Freedom and out of line of sight of the druid, bait them behind the pillar, root them, get away, get distance. Now Eternity Surge into spam Disintegrate on the Ret Paladin, push in aggressively towards the druid since we've got the monk off of ourselves, try and find a Sleepwalk. We're going to get interrupted, not a big deal. We're just going to immediately go back to casting Disintegrate. Whenever you don't have Disintegrate, it's Eternity Surge, then Living Flame. We get caught up in a stun here, we get dispelled, so we're going to hover away once again and just keep pulling away from your enemies. Druid's back there in the far corner, so I want to pull them back behind the pillar. Now they're swapping over to my Ellie Shaman, so I'm going to turn around here for a moment and start getting aggressive. Just Disintegrate, Disintegrate, Disintegrate. It's your main priority ability. Whenever you get a proc Eternity Surge like here, with that Disintegrate, it's going to be doing a lot more damage. Just whoever you can channel it onto, you're basically a turret. Fire Breath here to try and strip some hots off the Ret Paladin and get the dot up onto him. Eternity Surge for follow-up, trying to get more Essence Break procs to spam Disintegrate. Shattering Star, Disintegrate onto the Windwalker who's overextended. He's got no trinket in this position. We can also then just spam Living Flame when we have nothing else to cast. I see a Hammer of Justice on the Druid, so chaining CC, it's going to be easier to sleepwalk out of a stun than not, but he actually gets Sanctuaried and line of sights me for a moment. Get rid of those instant Living Flames as soon as possible so you can continue to proc more into the future. We get bashed here. I'm going to choose to Trinket, hover away. We try and go for an interrupt. We miss our interrupt, so now he's got precognition. We're going to have to kite and avoid damage as long as possible. Our Paladin's getting Cyclone. We're trying to pressure the Ret and stay out of range of his interrupt since the monk doesn't have one, but we're starting to go down pretty quickly here. Shield of Vengeance is up, so we're going to rescue and we're going to pull ourselves and the shaman to the high ground. And this is something that you want to abuse with rescue on any maps that you can against melee DPS, is by rescuing up on a Z-axis so we can jump off the side and hover across the other side of the map and continue to spam our laser beams, continue to focus on just doing as much damage as possible, and really trying to time the Fire Breath Double Disintegrate windows. We get caught in a leg sweep, but it's just one player, so we're going to knock him away on the Fists of Fury. Using knockbacks on that's really stellar because he'll have to cancel the fist if he wants to reconnect, and then we're going to Verdant Embrace, give ourselves a little bit of a heal, and try and pull behind the pillar. Now when you run out of hovers, it's when it gets awkward. You can see me just kind of running around, so we're going to get Nullifying Shroud up while we're waiting for hover to come off cooldown. Channel a Disintegrate as he's going around the corner. I love that it also applies a snare to the target, which makes us feel really effective. Swap another Disintegrate over onto the Ret Paladin. Trying to wait for a little bit of dampening. Resto Druids are a really tough healer to get a kill before that point if you don't get a good Fire Breath purge, especially because our team doesn't have MS. And now I'm kind of running at the Druid, just attacking the Druid, forcing him to hot himself or forcing cooldowns. And as soon as the Druid uses Bark Skin, it's usually now is the time to go for a sleep. You force the defensive cooldown. They've swapped hots, so we can sleep the healer and swap. Unfortunately, my team doesn't want to coordinate that. We Hammer Justice anyways, double Fire Breath onto the DPS to purge some hots, and we get bopped. Now with this bop, we can't be interrupted, so we're going to drop a Shattering Star, and we can just channel Disintegrates, and we're just going to keep channeling them until this Blessing Protection is over. We're hitting the target that doesn't have Iron Bark, which is the Windwalker in this position, and forcing them to run behind the pillar. Now the Druid's out in the open and exposed, so we can Eternity Surge, swap some damage to the Druid. We don't have any Disintegrates, so we're going to spam Living Flame in this position. That forces the Druid then to run behind the pillar. They're both charging at me, so we're going to go for a double Landslide route, try and wait for our hover charges to come off cooldown, which is coming up in about one more second. We're going to hover towards the Druid. We got Sleepwalk DR coming off. We're just disintegrating him for now, trying to force hot swaps drops, or maybe even just kill them. This is the fun part about Devastation Evokers, and you can just go for a solo kill on a healer like this because of the move while casting. Now we're going to knock up the enemies. They get pulled away with a static field. We're going to reposition and kite and avoid. Whenever you get attacked, you need to go into defense mode, and this is just pull the melee DPS away as much as possible. When you're not getting attacked, you want to go into offense mode, which is hovering at the healer, sleeping them, and attacking them. But you need to be able to flex between the two pretty rapidly. Here we're going to use Shattering Star, Disintegrate. Whenever you have a Shattering Star, you want to usually make sure you at least have one Disintegrate available. Fully charged Fire Breath. I don't know why I let that one go off. It looks like it hit the Red Paladin anyways, but we purged some hots. Now they're pulling behind the pillar. We're getting procs. We got Dragon Rage, so we're just going to Dragon Rage. Ended up being kind of a blunder because he ended up using defensive cooldowns here. We're going to use an instant Eternity Surge with Tip the Scales instead of Fire Breath. Not typically the best, but if you don't have Fire Breath, it's kind of going to be what you have to do. Double Deep Breath since they're stacked up and they're getting a little close to me, and I don't have a hover at that moment. So this is going to get me distance away, get me on top of the Druid, get me in position to get a Sleepwalk, and stun up the DPS. So high value Deep Breath if you can organize it so that it's hitting the DPS to stun them and peel for yourself, getting you away from the DPS, and getting you on top of the healer. That is like the big banger of a Deep Breath that you're ever going to get. Now my Paladin is stunned up here, so we've got Rescue and we've got Verdant Embrace. These are our main like defensive healing mechanics other than spamming Living Flame. So we're going to pull our Paladin up to the high ground so he doesn't need to worry about dying. He doesn't have Divine Shield, doesn't have Trinket, so he can heal safely now from the high ground. We're going to jump back down to the bottom, start spamming Disintegrates out onto the Windwalker Monk, keep our pressure going. He ports away from the Shattering Star, which is really unfortunate. We're just going to go after the Druid instead. And again, against a Resto Druid, either attacking them or sleeping them, depending on if you have DRs, but depending also if you're getting attacked. So now the Windwalker's attacking me. We're probably going to be a little bit worried, so we're going to pop a wall. We're getting offensive Fire Breath, trying to hit as many people with this as possible to purge as many hots as I can. Fully charged Fire Breath, and we can just hammer down the Druid with no hots now. Like, this is one of the best case scenarios, and we've got a hover charge. We're proccing Eternity Surges. We're going to go around the corner. We get that Eternity Surge off at the last second, and he's low with Barskin, but dampening is so high now that I think I'm just going to continue to attack him. We're getting instant Living Flame procs. We're chucking those out as much as we can. He wraps around the corner. We're just going to immediately swap Disintegrates to the Windwalker because now the Druid's working to top themselves, and then they're going to have to worry about the Windwalker, who's now suddenly low as they come back. Here comes Serenity from the Windwalker, but we're still keeping pressure up. Sacrifices out onto the Druid, so Disintegrates are channeling. Monk's on the run. Lava Burst coming in, and he's going to go down to the burst damage. So what I loved about Evoker Devastation was the ability to flex in playstyle between offense and defense, and it was actually surprisingly simple after a while. I just simplified it down to use Shattering Star with Disintegrate, Dragon Rage, Tip to Scale Fire Breath, Deep Breath. Think of it as when you're run out of hover charges, or if you're in a position where the DPS are stacked, it's going to be like an ideal situation. Rescue to either get yourself to a better position or give your allies a shield if they need it. Verdant Embrace. I'd say like absolute desperation is Emerald Blossom. You can use Emerald Blossom as an emergency heal. It's going to cost you some Disintegrates in the future, as it costs the same resources but it's still pretty good. You also have the Bleed Dispel or the Curse Dispel. You really want to be paying attention to that when you're fighting against shamans who have Hex or Assassination Rogues, Feral Druids, even Arms Warriors to some extent. You can dispel the Dragon Roar. It's going to be really good to use that Bleed Dispel in those types of situations. So here we basically can only remove Hex across this team that we're about to be engaging with, so we're going to get prepared to do that. And at the start of the fight, again, wait to see if the enemies run at you, and as they're starting to run in, this is when we're going to start to get our shroud up so we can feel protected, nice and safe, so we can crush them into the future. So we're watching the enemies, seeing when they're going to start moving in, and I got to sneeze. Hopefully they move in before I got to sneeze. But they're not moving in, so I'm not shrouding because it's just going to get purged, or it's going to run out of time and I'm not going to get value, which is one of the main things. So we're just going to sit here. We're going to wait till they run in. You don't really have like a dot to apply. You're not too worried about it. Now I see the Monk coming in off his mount, so Nullifying Shroud comes up. Monk moves in, but I'm immune to Leg Sweep, so who cares? Shattering Star, Hover, Double Disintegrate, and this is like a pretty standard opener. This is like your main bread and butter part of the rotation. This is what you're going to be doing 80% of the time in order to find victory, is that Shattering Star, Double Disintegrate, and the Deep Breath, with at least with my build, with Haste and the Disintegrate build, this is like the main win condition. I see a Hammer of Justice, but I also see our Druid in a Hammer of Justice, so or Leg Sweep, so I'm going to sleep the Monk off my Druid, and this actually gets him to Trinket, so then I'm going to go for a Landslide and just get him rooted up. Our Druid ends up trading a lot of defenses anyways. We're going to Verdant Embrace in. We could also use Rescue, so this is a good time to pull my ally away from the Windwalker. This is the nice part about Devastation, is you can kind of carry your teammates if they're in a bad position or something is looking dire. You've got tools to save them, which is really nice. Shattering Star, Double Disintegrate into Deep Breath, trying to hit the Monk, get away from the Monk, and stun the healer. You can see how valuable that is, right? I'm getting distance away from the melee DPS. I'm stunning killing the healer, and I got his trinket. So this is a really big value. Dragon's Breath, tip the scales, Fire Breath, but it gets Searing Glare. That was really unfortunate because that Fire Breath hit the whole team. It would have done so much damage. So really good Searing Glare from the Paladin here. We're pulling the Windwalker behind a pillar. We want him in a bad position. Disintegrate with Hover, dragging him back behind the box. We don't have a root, so we're going to go to the high ground, jump across, use the slow fall to get a little bit of extra distance away, get an Eternity Surge off, trying to get more procs for Essence Break so we can get spam more Disintegrates. We get Wind Shirt and Fire, not a big deal. Shattering Star, kill the Sky Fury with Azure Strike, and then we got Shattering Star up on the Elemental here, so we're going to get Disintegrates off into this. And this is kind of the main combo. You can see it does like, I don't know, like how much damage is that? That was like that was like half his health bar in 2 Disintegrates with the Shattering Star. So if you can catch those situations. Here we're stunned up, but our healer isn't CC'd, so we're not trinketing right away. We're going to wait for that CC to end. Azure Strike's just a really good totem sniper. That's what I'm using it for mostly. You can also use it as an instant cast to apply slow. We got a Fire Breath to try and purge off the bop from the Ellie, get the dot onto 2 targets, hit as many people as possible. Disintegrate's coming through. You get kicked, not a big deal. We're hover away. If you're kicked on Disintegrate, you can either Living Flame offensively or defensively to heal, depending on if your healer is CC'd. The Monk's going to run away. He doesn't want to get pulled behind the pillar and get stunned and die. Shattering Star onto the Ellie, double Disintegrate. This is your big moment to get a lot of damage out. You can see half his health gone, almost half his health gone, and we force wall and sacrifice. Now the Windwalker's like, oh god, I got to get something going here. He comes in, he gets a double leg sweep. We are going to trinket this one because our healer was CC'd. We'll knock the Windwalker away back behind the pillar. This baits him to Tiger's Lust, which means if we had Landslide, we could root him. We're going to jump off the side. He gets Hammer of Justice, and we got a full Cyclone onto the Holy Paladin. So this is a really good position to just go for a kill. We got Cross CC. We've isolated the target that we want to attack. We get Windshield though on Disintegrate, which puts us behind, buys time for him to get Karma. We have a bop. We could bop off this Karma. It would be a bit risky. I think bopping Serenity is generally better, but we actually do bop off the Karma. We get a sleep onto the Ellie because the Pally's on Clone DR. Clone and Sleepwalk share DR, so you don't want to be doing that. I see the Pally getting aggressive, so I'm going to attack him. And this is one thing that I don't see people do enough, is that if the enemy healer is getting in on top of your team, just swap to him. Look at this. Just one clean little swap to this Holy Paladin and Divine Shield. And now he's got to recover his own health. He's got to get out. He's not going to be harassing your healer. It's going to put your team in a way better position if you're paying attention to that. Now I see the Shaman casting Hex. So again, get ready whenever you see Hex if you need to dispel that. We're going to get Nullifying Shroud up while I've got time and there's nothing going on. Get Windshield on. It doesn't matter. I can Disintegrate and Living Flame. So it's not a big deal. We'll just wait till it's over. Fire Breath after the Disintegrate. And we can get the Shroud up whenever. And this is going to force the Shaman to either use 3 levels of Purge, get a full channel, get a 100k hit on the Shaman, full clone onto the Paladin. Shaman's all alone. We get stunned. It's really sad because this Shaman would be dead right now. A Shattering Star double Disintegrate would go through Burrow and probably finish him. So we're going to get our Shroud up again. If it gets sheared, we don't really care. Again, it's just tanking and interrupt for free because we can still do our damage rotation. Or Shattering Star, double Disintegrate. We get a War Stomp, just spam me as much damage into the Shaman, whoever's in my line of sight. A lot of other players would just run behind the pillar and try and hit the guy the red is hitting, but this is going to compromise your positioning, stack you up for leg sweep, and you're going to not be doing a lot of damage. You just want to attack whatever's in your line of sight at all times. Double Eternity Surge. I charged it twice there to hit the Monk and the Shaman because they're both stacked up, so it's good to get double value hit on that. We get rooted up, trying to kill off the totem. We're all in the middle of the map. We got a hover charge, so we can hover around the corner here or landslide root around the corner. Try and catch somebody with one of those. And I'm going after the Monk. This forces sacrifice because the Shaman has bop, so the rest's probably not going to attack him. Hammer Justice on the Paladin. Shaman's all alone. Disintegrate's coming through. We've got a Shattering Star. We've got a Fire Breath. We've also got a Rescue if we need to for emergency measures, and we got 2 Obsidian Scales, so we should be able to play offensive here and just use Obsidian Scales if we need to. Double Fire Breath hit, get the dot onto 2 targets just to max out the damage. Monk is getting aggressive. I don't like that, so I'm going to attack whoever's pushing forward and try and force them away. Sleepwalk to Serenity, buy some time. We've also got Rescue for the Druid during Serenity, so we're going to jump in with a Verdant Embrace and potentially Rescue. This time we rescue the Ret. Unfortunately, Bubbles at the same time, but they swapped to the Ret, so he was a bit scared. Now we're in a real load of trouble here with Fist of Fury flying through, so we're going to Deep Breath. Again, I'm stunning the DPS, trying to fly towards the healer, getting away from the melee and getting on top of the healer, so it's really high value. We don't have Sleepwalk, and he's going for Searing Glare, so we're just going to keep channeling Disintegrate since it's already connected. And we can also heal during this time. We're renewing Blaze. We're kind of low. Monk's attacking us is going to be pretty big value. We still have an Obsidian Scale charge for defensive cooldowns as well. We got Wall from the Shaman. We're still going after the Shaman, but we should be actually swapping potentially to the Monk. We're getting kind of low in this position. We're going for a Sleepwalk, trying to get on the Paladin around the corner. We get the Sleepwalk. Dampen Harm's over, but then we get a Clone. So it's not really anything great to attack. Now, the Paladin still has no bubble, though, so he's probably the best target. I've I've got Dragon Rage tip the scales, so we can do a lot of damage. Shattering Star, should have used Dragon Rage here. Dragon Rage into tip the scales, Fire Breath, and double Disintegrate first. I think I do the Dragon Rage after, but it would have been way better to do it before. Dragon Rage, Fire Breath. This is going to give me, actually maybe it's better to do it this way, because then I get full benefit of my mastery when he's at low health as opposed to only at high, and we can run him down. So having got his bubble earlier with that swap meant that he didn't have it in this position. So always punish people that are pushing in on top of your team. Always max out your damage on whoever is coming nearby. Focus on value from your deep breaths so that you can escape melee attackers and get close to the healer and stun as many people on the way as possible. And try and make sure that your hover charges are going. When you don't have a lot of hover charges or you can't move around the map, casting Nullifying Shroud to either bait kicks or just get the shroud out to protect yourself while you're waiting for those hover charges is going to put you in a really good position. Now, this class was super fun. A lot more fun than I was expecting. I thought it was oversimplified, but I'm actually starting to fall in love with it a little bit. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this guide, and it's going to help you start your climb on the Devastation Evoker. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.